Konnichiwa, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to Nerd Talk Podcast, your one-stop entertainment for all anime and manga, along with other various topics within the nerd community. Without further ado, on to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Nerd Talk Podcast. I am Wesley, your host of these wonderful nerdy events. I am joined with my good friend Wayne Larson.
Hi, everyone.
So tell us a little bit about your interest in like Gundams, because I'm currently down in my work table doing this recording. I mean, it's easier to look at it and explain than trying to do it like in the normal studio where I don't have any of my tools, and I'm like, how do I explain this?
Gundams? Well, my interest in them is just I love giant robots. Big, bad.
First thing that comes to my mind is Shinji Genin the robot.
Yes.
Anyone that doesn't get that reference, that's from Neo Genesis Abridged.
And you know, I don't know if you heard, they just announced the release date of the final film.
Oh, I am so excited! They had
January. We only have to wait till January now.
I saw they had like a 30-minute teaser, or was it a 10-minute teaser of?
I think it was about 10 minutes. It was the first 10 minutes of the movie. But the new trailer that dropped, like I think about a day or two, which would have been right around October 15th or so. It revealed all new scenes with Asuka and a couple other characters. They got new suit designs too.
Well, they always get a new suit design.
Yes.
It's that fan pleasing thing.
It's also a marketing. You know, hey, we could change the color and sell new toys or new whatever.
Oh yeah, I still remember in the second movie, Asuka actually did complain a little bit about the suit. She's like,
oh yeah,
literally, I quote, she's like, she says, I like the color, but who's the pervert that designed this? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I love that line. I mean, she's smoking hot. Why would you complain?
Oh yeah. Evangelion was one of those series I didn't get in right away. You know, it took me a little time, but I mean, it was very depressing. That's probably why.
I actually did. I watched a few YouTube videos on analyzing that anime series. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, because a lot of people complained about the rebuild series not following the necessary series. Well, I found out why that's the case. In the original series, it was the creator's message behind the show. Yes, this particular anime had a message that a lot of people thought the opposite of what he was trying to convey, was that escapism is not the answer. Right. But with a lot of people, because if you look at everyone, they're a psychological mess. This is a Shrink's wet dream anime. This is something you could tell your psychiatrist to watch this. This will be fun. Analyze the living bejesus out of this, and he'll be like, thank you for telling me about this. This is perfect. Because he can psychoanalyze everything. And so this one was dealing with escapism. But the bad thing was the Japanese target audience that he was having this tailored to ended up misinterpreting the message that's stating that escapism was the answer. And so accepting those like thoughts and things that or delusions and stuff like that was acceptable. That wasn't the message. And so that's where the rebuild series comes in, where you have a whole bunch of different things happening that a lot of people just didn't like, but that's basically what would happen, because it's like literally a reboot. Because if you ever actually read the manga, everything literally starts from like square one after Armageddon.
Oh yeah. I mean, I actually really like the reboot. Well, the newer films. My one and only major complaint with it: why did they have to make Unit 2 into a cat?
Unit 2 and a cat?
Yeah, third film. It went to a full feline mode.
Feline mode. I'm trying to remember. That was Unit 2, right?
Yeah, did I say a different? Yeah, Unit 2. Because, you know, in the second film, what's the one character's name? Mari. She went and activated the beast mode. And then it went into that full berserker mode.
Yeah. How
And
did
then
that
in the
look like?
third one, they kind of touch upon it, and it went into a full beast mode, but this full beast mode is a cat mode.
I would have to rewatch the show. I don't remember like a cat mode.
I have the art book, but I don't have it right here.
It doesn't do us any good since this is all audio.
Yeah. Oh. I thought we were going to be on film too.
No. We're only looking at each other because this is just more comfortable when you're having a conversation when you see the whites of your enemy.
Oh, yes. Don't shoot until you see the whites.
Yeah, but yeah, Evangelion would probably have been like one of my first mecha series. I mean, I stayed up watching at Thursday nights, watching Neo Genesis Evangelion when it played on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Toonami. It was actually Adult Swim.
Oh, that would have been what, like mid 2000s? I think that's when it was.
Yeah.
So I would have actually been like just getting out of high school. I didn't have time to watch any of that, but I did have the DVDs. I was starting to collect them, and at that point, there's always for me the big gateway to giant robot Gundam, mecha series. Always Power Rangers. Power Rangers went into Gundams for me. I could never get enough of giant robots.
Then you probably like Voltron because it has that notion of building.
Yes, I mean I never really got big into Voltron.
Yeah, neither did I.
I don't know if it was the lion part of it just didn't really. I'm on the later or on the latter half. I think I like the vehicle Voltron. I think that design's pretty interesting myself, but I know that's among Voltron fans, that's not the big one. They like the lions.
Since we've been talking about giant robots, we just have to we have to just talk about this one because we can't talk about Japanese robots without talking about Gundam.
Nope.
Gundam is like basically the start of the whole giant robot phenomenon. And hell, even it picked up in the United States, and Japan produces some pretty weird stuff. But this happened to be the one gem that just fit every single corner of the world is a giant robot. And you have the standard typical whiny teenager that's in it that everyone can relate to.
Well, I don't know if they can relate to Shinji. I mean...
But Amuro was almost kind of the same thing a little bit, but he matures a little bit more as he goes through. But he was a whiny kid in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when you get into the robot, you bitch and complain about it for the first 5 minutes. Then you realize how easy it is to pilot, and you're like, heck yeah! And you just start going like Sparta on everyone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you throw me in a mech, Gundam, I wouldn't complain one bit.
No. If I remember right, there was one American cartoon that actually did have it where it was a giant robot concept. I keep forgetting what the name was. It had like two guys and a chick
in
from
the car.
The future. Yeah, in the car.
That's serious.
Mega XLR.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gundam basically was a very, very big thing. I mean, I have a huge collection of different kinds of Gundams. And I've actually just started building them. So where I'm currently at is basically pretty far advanced for the last 4 or 5 years. The ones that got me started building Gundams was the Iron Blood Orphan series. But my very first Gundam, which a lot of people actually hate this kit, and I agree with them because this one was a pain, was the 1/100 scale Exia Trans Am. Original Exia Trans Am.
I never got that one.
I don't recommend it unless they remake it. It is so fidgety. I have it on its stand and I do not touch it. I don't change the positions. I don't do anything. It just stays on its stand and I don't even move it an inch.
That sounds like my perfect grade Wing Zero.
Oh, don't get me started with that. One of my Wing Zeros, basically, it could not hold the blaster at all.
Well, that's pretty much all Wing Zeros. The Verkov may fix that. We'll see. But
I mean, I like the fact that they have like the opposable fingers, but you can't hold the weapon properly. I love
Mm-hmm.
the extra feature, but what they should do is have one for the, the free hand and then the standard brick
Yep.
molded. That just makes it easier for it to hold the weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, but there are so many different types of Gundam series. Like I was saying, the Exias from 000. That was actually probably one of the first Gundam series that I realized what was Gundam. Because at a point, it took me a while to realize what anime itself was.
See, for me, I'm a little older than you, but I was there in the '90s when Toonami, Adult Swim, well, Midnight Run, and all those were going on. And for me, the big ones were Gundam Wing and G Gundam. I hate G Gundam. I hated the tournament style. I know it's a very short part of it, but I just couldn't get around it.
Yeah, if I remember right, G Gundam was more like a martial arts kind of Gundam fight. It wasn't like pilot versus pilot. This is more like, I have a giant robot, you have a giant robot. Let's have a competition on who can beat the living Jesus out of each other.
Yep. And I mean, interesting idea, but that just wasn't my thing.
It was kind of like how they did like with Build Divers, where this one, anyone that's into like building Gundams or the term Gunpla needs to watch Build Fighters, because if you're just in it to build it, I love how that sounded. If you're in it to build it, Build series is a perfect anime to at least like a brain rot when you're working on your Gundams. It's a perfect series to be playing in the background, because the whole concept is people building Gundams and battling with their models. So it is a perfect anime for when you're just sitting at your work table and just fiddling away. That's what I usually do, is listen to all the Build Fighter series.
I remember when that they announced that series, the very first one. I'm like, really? They're making a series about building Gundams for Gundams? But I watched it, and I was hooked on that series. It was good.
If you actually remember, this is going way back, and this is probably even maybe a little bit before your time, or you were probably like a toddler during this time. But when Gundam came out, it originally was a toy line.
Oh yeah, well, most of those are a toy line before they get a series. The series is there to sell.
Actually, the series actually went to a toy line thing to fund them, but the toys weren't selling, and they almost went bankrupt until they, because the toys weren't selling, and so the funding was being cut. But they got a lucky break when they got into model industry, because again, the show Gundam wasn't actually made for children, like small, like 6 to 10. The show was actually designed for teenagers, and at that time, teenagers weren't really into plastic toys. But teenagers were into plastic models, because they were able to build them themselves, painted different things, and so that had a little bit more appeal. And so when Bandai Namco basically pitched them that we can do the plastic models and we can fund you, and so that's why you have Gundam that's basically partnered with Bandai. So anything Gundam, you're going to hear the word Bandai.
Oh yes, that's their baby.
Oh God, yes, that is definitely their baby. The lovely thing is Bandai also works on different things other than just Gundam model kits.
Yep, which is nice.
Oh yeah, but the sad thing is it's hard to find any of those here in the United States.
They were doing with model kit wise.
Yeah, model kit wise.
It was becoming very popular for a while to start to see the Power Rangers Super Sentai model kits coming out, which they've been releasing in Japan for a long time.
Oh, God,
but with Hasbro purchasing the rights to Power Rangers, that made it so Bandai is no longer able to release those model kits in the United States. They would have to market them as a Sentai, which, I mean, you could, but, I mean, if you're a novice and not sure on what Sentai is, you might not know that Power Rangers uses Super Sentai footage and not connected at first.
Yeah, so that's kind of still very interesting because I have a bud that's a huge Power Rangers junkie. He could tell you anything from Series 1.
Oh, yeah.
Most of
93 is when I was there day one. Yep.
I was just born. So.
Oh, boy. I was 5 when that came.
So yeah, I got somewhat of the tail end of the 90s Power Rangers.
So you had been going into like Zeo, Lost
Yeah.
Galaxy, Lost in Space, or the Space series, which were all
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So I probably still started at a good point in the Power Ranger series. But yeah, it's just mecha in itself is just one of those very unique, very interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
Japan actually built a 1/1 scale working RX-79 Gundam from the original series.
Right. Plus, they've also swapped it out now with the unicorn, and I don't know if you've also heard China's got one that's getting one.
Yeah.
Oh, is it Freedom?
But why are we giving China a giant robot? They will reverse engineer the heck out of it.
Japan's got the moving one that's going to be released soon too.
That's the one I was talking about. Actually.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the original one, the first one.
No, yeah, they did. Yeah, they did do that. Japan is like the leading and producing giant robots at this point.
3 giant robots already.
At this point, they're going to have to start weaponizing them.
Who knows if they already haven't?
Well, they're probably still working on the beam cannon.
Yeah, ballistics work for now.
Yeah, let's just get it where it stays like conventional, like Iron Blood Orphan. I think they're trying to go more like that because it's a basic suit that fires basic projectiles.
Yeah.
So, but we don't have pilots that can actually turn into like almost a demon.
Right. It's probably good. Well, I'm sure we could find some, but let's not.
Yeah, but I did find it very interesting with Iron Blood Orphan. It's one of the rare times where the Gundam protagonist gets busy in a Gundam, if you get my drift. It's the only one.
Is it?
Yep.
I don't know.
It's the only one you actually do it in the Gundam.
Yeah,
he couldn't leave.
I think that,
leave.
Yeah, but I think in one of the pilot, turn A, sorry. I think the pilots it naked for some reason.
They censored a lot when it came to like Gundams in the beginning.
Okay.
Like for instance with Gundam Wing, this one made absolutely no sense for censoring. Was they actually had it where one of the main characters was standing in front a step hill, but it was actually gravestones that were supposed to be there, and they censored out the gravestones, and I'm like, why? I mean,
that's 90s.
Yeah, like 90s basically butchered anything that came from Japan.
I mean, I know there's a lot, like, that's one reason I loved, Adult Swim or the Toonami Midnight Run. They had, a little bit more freedom, but there was still a lot of censoring and stuff that went on with that.
Yeah, because some other...
the amount of editing Dragon Ball Z got.
I'm
a little
amazed...
off topic, but, just the edit, the amount of censoring.
Yeah. I'm amazed there was no giant robots in DBZ.
There was robots. They had little piloted. They weren't giant, but there was robots. More in Dragon Ball.
Yeah, kind of interesting.
With the red ribbon had, little...
Like the androids.
Yeah, which are technically cyborgs and not androids.
Yeah, cyborg androids, yeah. But they actually Bandai did make model kits of Android 17 and 18.
Yeah. They have been working on a lot of the really all the way through Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, which is terrible, and Dragon Ball Z or Super. They've been making model kits out of those now. Actually, that's what got me into model building back in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, because some of the other ones that I have here is like from Fate Stay Grand Order. So it's like it's Nero. I'm like, here's her sword. It's 2 colors. I had to prime it all black because I just couldn't get the red stripe.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, Bandai kits, sure, people hate this, but this is the one part I kind of liked about Bandai kits is that they provide stickers. And they provide... Yeah, the stickers aren't terrible, but if you're like a first timer, I'm like, this thing has to be red and black. There's not a single sticker. You have to paint this. So this
for
is
me,
kind of
I use one sticker and one sticker only, and that's usually the eyes.
yeah.
But
I just
I'm trying
haven't.
to push myself more on painting the eyes now.
I would almost want to do for the Evangelion series. I would love to paint all the green with glow in the dark neon.
I've
And
actually
so
seen some people do that, and it is very nice.
and so when it's like super bright, that literally just lights up, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, ooh, that looks
Well,
like perfect out of the scene.
it was actually a glow paint that they used too. It was a formula that was actually made just for the unit. It was unit
Yeah.
1. It was a color specifically made for that. But there was there's a couple of versions of it. A non-glow. You get the original anime, then you get the the remakes, the movies version. Yeah, but yeah, it was really nice. And it had a nice glow to it.
Because that's the lovely thing about like modeling is for anyone that's listening, the cardinal rule, there's 2 cardinal rules I would say with plastic modeling is 1, have fun. If you're not having fun, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And 2 is
Although
that
some of them are stressful, so you
yeah, take it with a grain of salt, my friends. Take it with a grain of salt. And the second thing is you don't have to do exactly what the box says.
Yes.
I mean, sure, it is pretty dang cool when you make it exactly like the show. But
well, that's
you don't
one nice
have
thing about
to.
Bandai model kits too. It's like most of the parts are already color separated. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, you really, if you're new, you don't want to paint or anything, you could just build it straight from the box, apply a couple stickers, and you have a decent model. Me, on the other hand, I'm going to paint them now.
I'm basically at the point where I like working easy. So any part, like for instance, the one color that I always have trouble with, and I've talked to many plastic modelers, and they all agree that this one color is a nightmare color, and that is white.
Yes.
It is a art form to paint white. So
Thanks,
that is why
for making all Gundams white.
So and that is why I do not paint anything that is white. I do a sand and buff. And it actually turns out really well because I'm able to hide those seam lines because it's white. When you cut them out, they fray white. So it's a little bit easier to sand and polish white when you have white as your damage.
Yeah, I like using Tamiya's white for airbrushing, and I've been airbrushing now for about 4 or 5 years, so I'm getting it. I mean, I'm not perfect at airbrushing white, but the key is to have proper thin and very thin coats.
Yeah.
Check your air pressure as well. That helps a lot.
Oh yeah. My dad basically struggled with some of his old bombers from the 1950s with one of his B-52s. It took him almost several weeks to get the mixture just right, to get that nice white undercarriage for his B-52. But yeah, that's the one color, that's the weirdest color, and I think it's just because of the pigment. It's just a very, very light, transparent pigment. If you're trying to paint something tiny and small, you're going to be perfectly fine. But if it covers a large area, you're going to have issues with streaking. Anyone that can hand paint white, large areas of white, is very, very good. Or they're using a completely different type of paint.
Yeah, there's quite a few different types out there too.
Oh yeah, because the main types that I kind of use, I did start getting into the more of the acrylic Tamiya paints. I just found these paints match the Gundam's colors so well, where I don't have to physically paint the model to hide sprue marks, because I found colors that match the bare paint, and it gives it a nice, cool little weathering technique. Because I met one of my F-18s that I built. Apparently they had little blotches and spots on it, and oddly enough, the model judges actually liked that. Because on the real thing, that's actually what would happen, is they would strip down spots that had paint peeling, and they would spray over that one general section.
Right.
So you would have blotches all over the plane.
Right.
And I'm thinking
a type of weathering.
Yeah, so it's a type of weathering. That was like one of the few things I inadvertently didn't do on purpose. Because they saw that, but it was too heavy for the coats. But I thought that if I'm entering my models in a competition now and I just do little blotch touch-ups and they ask, oh, why are there all spots here? And it's like, oh, that's just where they resprayed when it got when the paint chips. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, it's weathering. So that's the lovely thing, because paints are so good, and also they're very kid friendly. So if you're starting out, these are acrylic paints. That the Tamiya line are all acrylic. Anyone that doesn't know what acrylic is, a alcohol water based paint. They're basically they're a catch-22. They dry very, very fast, but that's also a problem. They dry really, really fast. They can dry out really fast, especially when you're airbrushing. If you're hand painting, just make sure you're kind of stirring it up pretty good, because again, it's a water alcohol mixture, so it will settle a little bit quicker than a oil-based paint.
A very good water-based paint that I've actually grown to use a lot more is Vallejo.
Oh, I actually have a couple of those Vallejo colors over here myself. I haven't actually gotten a chance to use them. One of them that was kind of interesting that I'm going to experiment is the liquid mask.
Have fun.
I know, but this is for me practicing rust and chipping. Though that brings up the other issue with Tamiya is they chip really easy. So you really need to put down a hard coat once you're done painting with Tamiya paints, or you will chip the living heck out of them.
Oh yeah.
But the lovely thing about that is, unlike with the Valero that you would have to apply this to, you can actually, if you have a good bottom coat where it's like the rust color and stuff like that, spray it over with this, let it dry, and then you can just go over and chip away. It won't scratch or take off the other paints if you have as long as you have a clear coat on top of it, and you can just chip away at it. And then when you have your chipping good, then you can just do a quick dust off and then spray it, and then you have your chipping. So that's the lovely thing about this, is it can already allow you to do so many things with what it's bad. I've had bad encounters when I'm working on some of mine that I didn't want chipping, but it gave me the idea of, if I actually wanted to work on a weathering thing, I'll be able to do that as an interesting effect using the properties of the paint. That's like one of the hardest things is to do chipping effects.
Yeah, I mean there's some good methods out there though. I've never gotten a hang of the hairspray and salt method, but like Camo by MIG makes a very nice chipping solution. You spray it down, you spray your color over it, and then you take water in a paintbrush and just go over it, and it randomly chips. And that one has been pretty nice. You never go wrong with a sponge either. Just take some sponge and paint.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that, obviously our audience can't see what I'm basically showing, but I have like one of my Gundam kits. I believe this one was called a Jester. Basically, I did like you can see all those little paint splotches that I have on here. That was supposed to be like a dust weather effect, but when I entered this in a model competition, they actually thought it was a camo pattern. And they really liked it, but I lost points because I thought I was going for weathering. And so like, if you're trying to do camo, that would have been really, really good. Apparently I do very good camo, because I'm like, look at that. That is gorgeous. That is like beautiful, like German Panzer camo right there. Though the shield could use a little bit more work on weathering. That was like my first attempt at trying to do like slashes and stuff like that. So that's where this shield that I have right here is basically what that shield was supposed to look like, where it's a little bit more, beat up and stuff like that. And I'm like, I literally took files and stuff, and I actually painted this all with acrylic paint.
To get a good slash as like a heat knife.
I've actually found that some metal files actually work really well.
Right.
I know I just had those little, there they are. I have like several of tiny little Tupperware boxes that are just filled with either spare parts, mixing sticks and stuff like that. But I have an assortment of these metal files here.
Okay.
I have like a flat edge. This triangular one. This works so well with slashing into the shields, and you just gently go through. And like you were saying, a hot needle would work really well for some people that are like small kids that want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Hot tools and small kids do not go well. But a metal file, oh, you can leave this with a kid as long as they know not to pick their nose with it.
I don't know if I'd leave it with any of my kids.
There's times that I want to stick this up my nose, like Billy and Mandy.
Yeah.
But it works so well with getting into to make those nice sharp things, sharp lines, that it just makes it a lot easier, and I can just gently keep going and filing. And
right,
because it's at a triangular edge, it's going to give me more like if it was an actual slash. So that's why I love these metal files that you can get. I have a whole 12 needle set. You can see it, but
yeah, I got something similar to that.
Yeah, this main topic was basically to geek out about like Gundams and other models and other kinds of Gundams related things. The lovely thing about it is again, giant robots are awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And there are so many different types. Right now, I'm currently working on a Hisakawa Draken 3, which is actually based off of a real airplane. And I'm like, I could almost put like the anime girl decals on that. The one I have right here, which is my Nightmare project. Everyone that does models has a Nightmare project.
Yep.
I've been working on this Draken 3 for about 4 or 5 years now. It has fell apart on me 5 times.
My nightmare has never fallen apart. It's just the same steps over and over and over again. And it's just, you get fatigued from it.
Oh, yeah, that is very true. And sometimes just taking a break can do you wonders when you're doing hobbies.
I'm on about a 2-year break on that one.
I kind of just kept at it. I found out what the problem was.
Oh, my problem is once I'm realizing once I get it built, I'm going to be taking it apart again and painting it.
Yeah, with this one, unfortunately, I can't take it apart once it's glued because it doesn't transform like the Bandai one, because it's a Hisakawa kit, and they're a good kit. They're just a pain to put together.
Yeah, that's the same with my Nightmare. It's a Kotobukiya. Great kit. I cannot complain about the build itself. I mean, the detail, everything. It's just compared to Bandai, I don't want to say they simplify too much, because I mean, if it's not moving and it's more of a detail part, they make it into a larger part, even if it gets covered up. For some reason, Kotobukiya wants to make every little part little, and I have giant sausage fingers.
Almost actually the total opposite of you. I actually like tiny individual parts because I build other plastic models, and I can't tell you how stressful it is to paint a tire with the wheel well. I'm like, just make it 2 parts. Literally taken the seat and made 5 parts in a 1/72nd scale plane. You have 5 parts to make up the chair, and yet you have the tires as one solid piece. You literally could just have it the wheel well and rubber tires. Yeah, I know they make rubber tires.
Oh yeah, I have a few of those kits too. It's just like, why?
It's those weird things that you just see in certain plastic models.
Well, I mean, I get why they should maybe throw a couple options in, but the more plastic that they have to supply you, the more the kit's going to cost. So it could be one of those things like, for instance, the fighter jets, why would most people I would think are going to have them, I would at least have them in a flight mode and not.
That's currently what I have my Draken 3. It was originally supposed to be landing gears down, but I was having trouble trying to, I got the landing gears beautiful. I actually have them here. So these are the Bandai ones. You can see how they're a full solid piece. I painted all the silver and the wheel well and the tire.
Okay.
These are really, really good. So here's that front landing gear. It's kind of going like a Navy style.
Yeah.
But you can see that the lines are nice and sharp and nice and crisp. I'm actually getting really good at doing these minute details to the point where my dad is actually telling me, "Can you paint my tires?" Because he's having a hard time trying to paint his army truck tires. And I'm like, "Do you want me to weather them and dust them as well?" "Yes, please." "Okay." Because that's the thing where my skill level is diversing from where my dad's skill level is I'm getting into weathering. My dad has never touched on weathering. I'm starting on basically, my dad can teach me the basics because that's how I got started in plastic models is my dad. But I started with model airplanes and stuff like that. I believe my very first airplane that I ever built was probably a Banshee. Then my dad took the Banshee and finished it.
My very first model kit would have been Dragon Ball Z figure from the early 2000s or a Zoid from Hasbro when Hasbro had the rights and they were releasing here in the States. My first Gundam, I didn't build my first Gundam until I was in college.
Wow.
And that was, it would have been 2007-ish. That's kind of when they were starting to transition into bringing kits here. You still had to pay an arm and a leg. But my very first one was Wing Zero EW Custom.
Yeah, my first one, like I was saying, ended up getting like 3 model kits. One of them I didn't get it till I was like a little bit older. I guess it was like $80 at the time for the 1/100 scale. It's still $80. But it was the high grade 144 scale Exia.
Okay.
Was my very first one. And then it was the other one that transformed into a jet. I keep forgetting what that one was called.
It's
the orange one.
Never
it was the
got
orange
into
one.
the Exia series, or well, the 00 series.
Well, that was like the first one for me. That was like when they had the sci-fi channel doing like Anime Monday and all that, which they had some really good shows on there, really good animes. Another mecha one that they had, and it was Gurren Lagann.
Oh yes.
I
never got past second season though. I was so disappointed. Some of that. It is on my to-do list.
I fell in love with that anime. It covered everything that a anime nerd would want. They got the giant mechas, fan service everywhere. I'm like, the sniper girl, oh my god. Everyone, it's like, shoot me in the heart and steal my soul kind of notion. I'm like, he should have ended up with her, but
you ruin anything. I haven't finished it. Although, I mean, considering how long it's been out, it's fair enough for spoilers.
Yeah, you're going to expect some spoilers, but I'll be courteous and refrain from anything that happens past season 1.
Yeah, for me, Big O was another big series.
Oh God, yes. Big O Showtime. I actually have an interesting story about that. When they were about to air the last episode, they screwed up and accidentally played the very first episode. And I thought
like
that's
Dragon
how
Ball
this...
Z.
Yeah, and I thought that's how it ended.
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, it's like this whole climactic thing, and everything's just going to white. And the next thing I know, we're back to episode 1, and I'm thinking, was everything just literally reset to 0? Is everything constantly repeating after another? It's like, oh god, it's Evangelion all over again.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z, will Goku defeat Frieza? Find out. And you go tune in next time. First episode, Saiyans are on their way. No! I don't know how many times Tsunami did that to me.
Well, that might be another reason. That actually is kind of a US thing, because with the US cartoons, they always have it where a lot of their plots are standalone, for they can air them, basically airing them randomly. That there's no coherence to American cartoons compared to anime, where there is a set plot. Unless you're talking about like Pop Team Epic, where you literally could just do any episode at that point because it's just a jab at Japanese pop culture. Still a good series for anyone that wants to look that up. Very confusing, but that's the part that we love about it. Other shows that probably didn't get much of the limelight was like Full Metal Panic and Code Geass.
Oh yes, yes. Full Metal Panic was one of the big ones I grew up with as well.
I love the fact when they made the models of like the Arbalest and the M9.
They're still on my purchase list, but my wish list, but I just haven't gotten them yet.
The part that frustrates me isn't the models. Oh, I love the fact that they did the models. It's the series. I watched both the first, second, and the OVA. The OVA is just plain funny.
That's the Mofu?
Yeah, the Fomofu. But the fourth season, hey, don't knock it until you try it.
I tried it.
But it gives us more with Tessa. We love the little Tessa. That is one thirsty captain. I can tell you that. That is one thirsty 16-year-old captain.
Yeah. That's one thing I have an issue with. Some of those 16-year-olds or 14-year-olds in the Ava series.
Yeah, well, you're trying to meet a certain demographic, I
guess.
Yes,
yes, I know.
So basically, the sad thing is, from what I've noticed, you have to be a teenager to pilot a giant robot.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
80% of all the robots out there, it's usually a teenager that's piloting them, or a very young adult.
At least the antagonist or the protagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be the main character, where you don't get pretty much prone, you have to be a teenager.
Yep.
If you're older than a teenager, you're probably going to get owned by a 16-year-old that literally has about 5 minutes of flight time in said
If robot. Even that, it's literally like, Shinji, get into the pilot. Get into the robot.
Shinji, get in the robot. I love the abridged series.
Yeah.
With that. It's like, you mean Operation Guilt Trip? No one's going to remember that name. Oh, man, that was beautifully done. So kudos to those guys that do some of these abridged series. They do a very, very good job. I just throwing it right on top of its head.
Oh yeah, I'm not a big abridged fan. I'm not a parody person. I'm the type of person that does not like Spaceballs and shows like that. So yeah, there's only one good parody I can think of off the top of my head that I can just, but it's relatable for me. Galaxy Quest.
Ah, that's a good one.
I mean, because I go to the conventions and everything. I'm part of that culture. I get it. It's relatable. I see a lot of that, at conventions. But yeah, I'm just not a big parody person. Never gotten to the bridge.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to Nerd Talk Podcast. Big shout out to my friend Wayne Larson for helping us out with wonderful facts on plastic models, Gundam, and all sorts of other wonderful goodness. I mean, thank you so much for this. This is such a vast topic where you can literally just keep going and going like the Energizer Buddy.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's one of those we barely even scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah. There's just not enough time for this.
There's so many rabbit holes you can go through with it.
So, to all our wonderful listeners, I am Wesley Weeks, and you listen to Nerd Talk Podcast, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again for listening to Nerd Talk Podcast, your one-stop anime and nerd entertainment. Until next time, Johnny.